Coming up in this episode of Rebel Report, we're inside the Cox Studios at the Intermountain Healthcare Performance Center, where we will be covering the NFL Draft and what's ahead for the Silver and Black in 2022. Plus, my interview with the new coach at UNLV football, who has his own ties to the Raiders.
Plus, UNLV softball hosts the San Diego State Aztecs at Eller Media Stadium.
And later, we see how the Golden Knights did against the Vancouver Canucks. All this and more on Rebel Report. Welcome to a special edition of Rebel Report from the studios of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm Alex Wright.
I'm Connor Torres. Before we dive into the local sports news of the week, we want to thank the Raiders for giving us this incredible opportunity to have a show at their facility.
Along with the Raiders and other Las Vegas sports, we are your source for UNLV athletics, the games, the events, the athletes, and the coaches.
Let's begin with our top story.
This past weekend, the softball Rebels hosted the Mountain West leading San Diego State Aztecs at Eller Media Softball Stadium. Reporter Nick Todorovic has more on the series.
The number 25 San Diego State Aztecs tried to walk into Eller Media Stadium and walk through the Rebels. However, UNLV held their own against a ranked opponent. The Rebels dropped Game 1 2-0. This game was a pitching battle between UNLV's Jenny Bressler and SDSU's Maggie Balint. The Rebels struggled to get any consistent hitting going against Balint, and when they did, UNLV ended up leaving runners stranded on base. The first loss didn't discourage UNLV from bouncing back in Game 2. Through 5 innings, the Rebels had an 8-1 lead. They were 1 run away from invoking the mercy rule, but SDSU kept the lead to 7 and started a ferocious comeback in the 6th inning. The Aztecs tallied 6 runs and cut the lead to 8-7. UNLV felt the nerves and they turned the game over to their ace, Jenny Bressler. She delivered with a save and preserved the win for UNLV. The conference lead was at stake in Game 3. SDSU went back to their ace Balint and UNLV countered with Bressler. The two aces were going at it all day long, but both teams got their bats on fire. SDSU took a 3-0 lead, then April Visser hit a 2-run bomb to cut the lead to 1. SDSU thought they had won the game when they extended their lead to 5-2, but then Visser tied the game in the 7th with a 3-run home run. Visser's hot bat and Maddie Schmidt's amazing fielding and base running was giving the Rebels all of the confidence and momentum in Game 3. However, in extra innings, SDSU scored 2 runs to take a 7-5 lead in the top of the 11th. The Rebels were able to get 1 back on a Schmidt RBI, but Mia Trejo had a pop fly to third, and that out ended the game. Even though the Rebels lost the series, Visser and Schmidt believe there are a lot of positives.
You know, they were undefeated entering conference play this weekend, and we actually were able to end their winning streak. I think that's huge as a program for us. Also, I think we learned a lot about ourselves as a team. Our pitching staff did great all around. Defensively, got a few things to clean up, and then offensively, I think our bats came alive as well.
There was a lot of positives throughout the games. Number one, we competed a lot. We didn't just lay back, and we fought until the very end.
The Rebels will look to keep their heads high and take this series as a learning lesson for later on in the season. The next 2 series for the softball Rebels are away at San Jose State and at home against Utah State. For a Rebel Report, this has been Nick Todorovic.
Thank you, Nick. UNLV fans can go support the Rebels against Utah State at home April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
UNLV baseball hosted a 3-game series versus the University of Nevada Reno Wolfpack. Reporter Jacob Teller shares the recap of the final game of the series.
I'm at the UNLV baseball game where they're hosting the UNR Wolfpack for the 3rd time in a row. They lost the first 2 games, but they're looking to bounce back on the final game. Let's see if they can do it. The first game ended in the 10th inning with the Wolfpack coming out on top 9-7. The Rebels have only gone to extra innings 1 other time during the season versus Cal Poly when they won 6-7. The following game in the series was one the Rebels wished they could have back. The Rebels were only down by 1 point at the top of the 8th before the Wolfpack went on to score 3 runs on 2 hits. Adarian Williams was 4 for 5 at the plate for the Rebels on 3 RBIs and 2 runs in a losing effort. Wrapping things up on Sunday, the Rebels were in control most of the 3rd game up until they were all tied up going into the 9th inning. The turning point of the game occurred in the 10th inning, tied 8-8, with the Rebels loading the bases after 2 hits. The Rebels won the game by walking it off to seal the 3-game series with 1 win and 2 losses. The series between the Wolfpack and the Rebels is 91-74, with the UNLV Rebels in front by 16 wins. Here's the first baseman for UNLV, Hank Zeisler, after the game.
Yeah, I mean, our offense has been super strong all year, so we just knew we had to get some guys on base and let the bats speak for themselves. We saw that pitcher yesterday, or maybe it was Friday, one of these days, and we knew what to expect, so just did our thing. Hi, Joey.
UNLV will be hosting San Jose at home for yet another 3-game series. Reporting for Rebel Report, this is Jacob Teller.
Thanks, Jacob. The Rebels still own a 16-game lead in all-time head-to-head series against the Wolfpack with 91 wins and 74 losses.
UNLV baseball hosted Dixie State for a single weekend non-conference matchup on Tuesday night. Here's Hector Salomon with a recap.
A special shout out to the 335 Club for their continued support.
The Rebels took the diamond Tuesday night to host their first ever meeting against Dixie State. Runs were at a premium early on with great pitching from starter Joey Acosta. And even when he wasn't punching them out, he got great help from his defense. Hammer and Hank Zeisler provided the offense with one swing. It was Zeisler's 6th home run of the year and gave UNLV an offensive jolt. He now leads the team in hitting with an average north of 400. The Rebels would tack on 2 more in the 8th, and Troy Balco entered to shut the door in the 9th, earning his 2nd save of the season. With the win, UNLV moves to 22-11 on the year and firmly atop the Mountain West Conference. The Rebels will once again defend their home turf in an Easter weekend series against conference foe San Jose State. I'm Hector Solomon, UNLV Rebel Report.
Thanks, Hector. Fans can go support the UNLV baseball team hosting the San Jose State Spartans in a 3-game series from April 14th through the 16th at Earl E. Wilson Stadium.
A Las Vegas native has officially been drafted into the WNBA. Lexi Ingdahl has more about the star women's basketball player.
Las Vegas's very own Liberty High School graduate Rae Burrell earned her spot in the WNBA on Monday. Burrell attended all 4 years of college at the University of Tennessee, where she returned from injury in her senior season, averaging 16.6 points per game, 5.6 rebounds per game, and 3.2 assists per game in the postseason alone. The 6'1" forward became a standout in her division and was selected second-team All-SEC her junior season. She was the 9th pick in the first round and is headed to the LA Sparks. She becomes the 50th player of all time from the Volunteers to be in the WNBA.
Yeah, I mean, I fought hard all season to work my way back into how I was before I got injured, and at the end I felt like myself again, and I felt that I was ready to take that next step.
Congratulations to Rae Burrell and her family. The Las Vegas community is proud of you and can't wait to see you excel.
Thanks, Lexi. How exciting that must be for the basketball community.
Jillian Maricini went out to the Las Vegas ballpark to watch the Aviators this past weekend. Here's her recap of the series finale.
The Las Vegas Aviators take on the Reno Aces in a 6-game homestand here at the Las Vegas ballpark. Here's a recap of how the series went.
The Aviators split the series with the Aces, ending the homestand with a win on Sunday, thanks to Luis Barrera's walk-off and his first home run of the season. On Saturday, Nick Allen, Athletics' number 3 prospect, hit his first AAA home run in the first inning. Aviators held $2 beer night as well as a t-shirt giveaway over the weekend as fans filled up the stadium for the return of Aviators baseball. Here's what one fan had to say during the game.
They're growing, you know what I'm saying? They're getting better. So that's what matters. Everybody wants to make it to the, to the A's, so everybody's doing what they got to do to kind of make their contribution to the team.
The Aviators will be on the road starting Tuesday for another 6-game series against the Salt Lake Bees.
Thanks, Jillian, and good luck to our Aviators on the rest of the season.
The NFL Draft is 2 weeks away. Reporter Jelani Watts has more on the top picks and their top comparison heading into the draft.
The streets of Las Vegas will be flooded with football fans April 28th through April 30th with the NFL Draft happening. Top players will be attending the draft, and all eyes are on who will be this year's top picks. With the first pick, most analysts have Michigan defensive end Aiden Hutchinson going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the player comparison to defensive end Jared Allen. Following that, Georgia defensive end Trayvon Walker is projected number 2 to Detroit, who is being compared to Green Bay linebacker Rashawn Gray. Oregon defensive end Kayvon Thibodeau is projected to go number 3 to Houston, with a comparison to third-year pro Josh Allen. Ohio State wideout Garrett Wilson is projected to go number 4 to the New York Jets, with Wilson's NFL comparison being wide receiver Will Fuller or retired wideout Chad Ochocinco. Rounding out the top 5 is NC State offensive tackle Akeem Ekwonu, heading to the New York Giants. Ekwonu is being regarded as a top tackle, being compared to Laramie Tunsil coming out of college. We'll be seeing how all this plays out in the next couple weeks, leading to the biggest event for these young men. This is Jelani Watts, signing off for Rebel Report.
Vegas is looking forward to hosting the draft. Thanks, Jelani.
Speaking of the NFL, quarterback Derek Carr has signed a 3-year contract extension with the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr agreed to a $121.5 million extension, tying Carr to Vegas through the 2025 season. Last season, Carr set the franchise single-season record of 4,804 passing yards and averaged 282.6 passing yards per game. Carr has proven to be a more efficient passer over the previous 4 seasons and has the 4th most passing yards in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Matt Ryan since 2018. Carr is the longest tenured quarterback in the AFC Conference. We are excited to see what the future holds for Carr and the Raiders.
UNLV football has made some new additions to its staff this offseason. One of the new coaches is coming by the way of the Raiders.
I had a chance to talk to him about the upcoming season. New UNLV offensive coordinator Nick Holes joins the Rebels after over a decade with the Raiders. So far, Holes has made an easy transition to UNLV as its spring football practices have begun.
It's been great. You know, the energy level here is awesome, and guys really, care about each other, and the culture here is really great. So it's kind of like just invigorates you every day to kind of get here. And the football, we're working hard and trying to get better every day, but it's been a really good, easy transition.
Through his time in the NFL, Holes has learned the importance of communicating with his players to help create a great relationship with the players.
You learn that if you know what you're talking about and you can help the player get better and keep their job and improve, you'll learn that anybody will listen to you if you can help them with their information. So I think it really helped me understand the game, but then learn how to communicate to the players. So I think that's where pro football made the biggest impact on me.
Part of his transition is now working with college kids. He's been able to use his experience at the NFL to help teach the players his system while helping them manage their responsibilities as students.
It comes down to all the fundamentals and, really being able to show those guys examples of, pro players struggling with something and then them picking up and growing is, for them is they're making the same mistakes as those guys and fixing them, right now in their career rather than when they get to the next level. Just these guys don't have all day, to study football and those kind of things. So from a teaching standpoint, you need to make sure that you're clear and concise with these guys, asking them what you want them to do because they have school, they have other lives, they only get 20 hours a week. So that part's been definitely a transition.
Holes had a previous relationship with head coach Marcus Arroyo, and that has helped make the transition into his new role a lot easier.
And then as we got to know each other, we kind of realized we saw things a lot the same way. But then here, now that we're together, it's very much interesting it's very interesting from the standpoint of we see some things really the same way, but then we really challenge each other too of, well, this is what this protection does and this. So it's just it's really exciting to have a dialogue at all times.
Holes is excited to be at UNLV as he sees big things from the offense this season.
Offensively, we want to be, explosive on offense. We want to score a lot of points, obviously, and we want to be, on the cutting edge. We want people watching what UNLV football is doing and saying, okay, we should look for that for our offense.
In his time in Las Vegas, Holes has seen the Las Vegas community embrace football and expects it to grow.
It just seems like football is kind of becoming a big part of the culture here, and it's really exciting to be in a place where, football is important to people, and people seem to really, it matters. And I think that's, our players feed off of that. I know coaches feed off of that, and that kind of energy, it's contagious.
We are looking forward to see what Nick Holes will do to help the UNLV football team in this upcoming season.
Speaking of UNLV football, fans, you'll have a chance to see the team in action at Allegiant Stadium later this month.
You are invited to watch the UNLV football spring showcase on April 23rd. The scrimmage will be about 90 minutes long, starting at 5 p.m. Parking is free, and there will be food and drinks available. The team plans to hold a third scrimmage later this spring, but this is the only one open to the public.
Good luck to the UNLV football team moving forward.
Up next on the rundown, Keaton, Jacob, and Hector take a closer look at the NFL draft and what is shaping up to be a very competitive AFC West next season.
Tired of endless scrolling through sports shows that don't talk about your Vegas teams? Haven't found the right sports show for you?
I just wish there was a show that focused on Vegas sports.
There is.
Really?
It's called The Rebel Report.
What is Rebel Report?
The Rebel Report is a UNLV sports show run by UNLV students that covers everything Vegas sports. To Golden Knights hockey, to Raiders football, to UNLV softball, The Rebel Report has it all.
You don't have to tell me twice. I'm watching right now.
You can watch The Rebel Report on YouTube and Facebook. And for more sports news, follow The Rebel Report on Twitter.
Welcome to The Rundown. I'm this week's host, Keaton Parita, and today I'm joined by Jacob Teller and Hector Solomon. We're going to get straight into it, boys. So the Raiders are coming up in the draft. They don't have a first-round pick, so not till the third round. Where do you think they're going to go with that third-round pick?
Well, personally, I think with the third-round pick, especially after the big signing of Derek Carr to a 3-year deal, $121.5 million, they have to add depth to their O-line. And I think they got a couple good options. One guy from ASU, Kellen Deitch. He's a 6'7" lineman. Personally, I just think that he would be a great addition. They have to add depth to it, and if anything, they can move towards defense in the later rounds with linebackers or DBs.
That's a fair point. I think without having picks in the first two rounds, like you mentioned, they're sort of playing the waiting game, seeing what falls to them in the third round. They already addressed some of their needs in free agency with the trade of Rocky Sin. They've addressed the need that they have a cornerback. They could also address that in the draft. I think, however, based on the moves that we've seen in the offseason, based on everything that's gone on within the division, the Raiders are trying to go all in for this year. They're not really in a rebuilding mode. So I think we might even be able to see a trade on draft day to get him back into the first round and take another receiver to help Derek Carr. There are teams in the middle of the first, like Houston at 13, that might be interested in trading back or for a future first-round pick. They don't have, the Raiders, don't have a first or a second this year, but they do have all their picks for next year. So we might be able to see a trade where they trade a future first for one this year to get back into a draft that projects to have at least 7, if not 8, wide receivers taken in the first round.
Well, regardless of where they go in this pick, we know they can put together a good season. They have the talent, they have the ability. Where do you think they finish in this division, and how many wins do you think they get?
Well, I'm thinking with how loaded this division is, I think that, the ceiling would be about 11 wins, finishing in second place, still making that wild card spot. But, worst case scenario, they go 9-8 and, barely miss the playoffs. But I really do think they're going to finish second in the division, behind probably the Chargers.
It's going to be a competitive division, no doubt. The Raiders' schedule still yet to be posted, but we know who their opponents are going to be. We know they're going to face the AFC South, so there are some weaker teams that they can maybe get a couple, if not 3 wins out of that division, if not just sweep it outright. We know that they will also, however, face the NFC West, and 3 of those 4 teams made it into the playoffs, the 49ers making a deep run, the Rams obviously winning the Super Bowl. So the schedule is not optimal for them, but the team is definitely going to be competitive enough to fight for, if not a wild card spot, like you said, maybe even the division, because Derek Carr has always shown that he can excel and raise the level of the talent of the team around him. And with the addition of Devontae Adams, with the incoming coaching staff of Josh McDaniels, I think we can see a really competitive Chargers team that is not only primed for a playoff spot, but maybe a run at the division.
And we know there's still a lot of players left in free agency. Do you think they'll finish after the draft? Do you think they're going to look to target some important players like, say, a Stephon Gilmore in free agency?
Yeah, with recent talks with Stephon Gilmore, they're definitely trying to bring him into the Raiders team. But, it's just going to take time with that. I think Tyrann Mathieu would be another great veteran presence to have on that team. They got a lot of young guys with a defensive back group, and if you bring in Stephon Gilmore or Tyrann Mathieu, you're really going to see that defense make strides, just like you've seen with the Chiefs defense, which wasn't so great until Tyrann Mathieu came in and really took things over. But I definitely think that they have to add one more free agent to defense and, maybe add a little bit more depth to that line.
Those are really good points. I would add that not only the free agent additions are important, but just as important is the coaching staff that's going to come in. I mean, shout out to Mark Davis and Dave Ziegler, who have rebuilt this team on the fly. They brought in a new coaching staff. Josh McDaniels is going to now lead an offense that we saw everything that he did with New England and Brady. And he's not even the only Belichick mentor that we have coming in. We also have Patrick Graham, who learned under the tutelage of Belichick, who's one of the greatest defensive coaches ever to step foot in the NFL. I think what's interesting is the way that they're going to have to remodel this roster. Patrick Graham is known more for his 3-4 defense, where the Raiders are built more for a 4-3 front, although Chandler Jones and Max Crosby are easily going to be, very prolific edge rushers for them. I think that might be something that they also address in the draft, is sort of rebuilding that offensive line, getting another 3-technique defensive end in there. But I think the ceiling is sky high for the Raiders. I really do believe that with this new regime and with the roster that they have, there's no telling how far they can go.
Well, that's all we have for this week's rundown, so I'm going to toss it back to the desk for Alex and Connor.
It's time to get to know a fellow Rebel.
This week, Rebel Report's Jamie Boyle is talking with Star Acosta, one of our UNLV cheerleaders. Let's check it out.
Hey everyone, it's Jamie, and this week on Getting to Know That Rebel, we have Star Acosta.
Hey guys.
She's a cheerleader here at UNLV, so Star, could you tell us a little bit about why you chose cheerleading here?
Ever since I was in middle school, I would perform at competitions like Desert Oasis, and I would see UNLV perform at the very end of the competition because it was the college showcase, and I was like, wow, those skills are amazing. I would love to be a part of that team. So finally this year, I accomplished that goal, and I was so happy.
That's so cool. How long have you been cheerleading?
I've been cheering since 6th grade, but originally I started out in gymnastics from the age of 3 to 12, and then that's how I transitioned.
What made you want to do cheerleading after gymnastics?
I love tumbling. That was my favorite part, the floor event in gymnastics. So I was like, how can I still do this but do something else? And with cheer, I get the best of both worlds.
What advice would you give someone who would want to try out for the cheer team?
I would say do it, because it's a great way to be a part of school spirit and just representing your college, and you're going to be like making a family out of it. Really great.
So you're also a student, right?
Yeah.
What year are you?
I'm a freshman.
A freshman? Wow.
Yeah.
How has that been, juggling school as a freshman on top of being a collegiate athlete?
I'll admit my first semester, it was kind of tough learning the time management part of it, because coming off of the COVID season, everything hit me at once, and I was like, wow, full-time cheer, full-time student, it was a lot. But just managing your time wisely, prioritizing your schoolwork, you can do it.
That's great advice. So what are you studying here?
I'm majoring in biology.
And why are you doing that?
I want to be a doctor. So after UNLV, I want to go to medical school and then be an anesthesiologist.
Okay, so thank you so much for your time here. But before we leave, could you tell us a little fun fact about yourself?
I would say a fun fact is that I'm always dancing, whether it's in the morning, before school, or late at night. My parents will be in the kitchen watching and laughing at me. And all the cheerleaders can tell you at practice, I'll just start busting out a TikTok. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, Star.
Of course.
Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time on Getting to Know That Rebel.
Up next, we have a recap of the Las Vegas Lights and a look at one of golf's biggest tournaments in the world.
Hey, did you catch that UNLV game?
I did.
Oh, I had to work, so couldn't go.
You can always look it up on Rebel Report.
What's Rebel Report?
Rebel Report is a 30-minute sports program on PBS, YouTube, and Facebook. They cover all UNLV sports.
Oh, is that it?
They also cover sports all across Las Vegas.
Oh, I'll make sure to subscribe. Oh, it's 3:30. We gotta get to class.
The Lights had an intense game against the best team in the league this past Saturday. Here's Murad Omesh on the match.
The Las Vegas Lights faced off against #1 ranked Colorado Switchback this past Saturday at home. The Lights trailed early in the game, but thanks to a Cal Jennings own goal assist and beautiful solo run goal, the Lights caught up to lead 2-1. Unfortunately, 2 Colorado goals in the second half saw the Lights lose the game 3-2 in a heated affair. This was the first of a 3-game homestand for the Lights. Here's head coach Enrique Duran's message to the fans ahead of those games.
We are having like a really good record right now on the road, okay, winning 2 of the last games that we play away. We want to just came back here now to Cashman and win as many games as we can, okay, just to provide to the fans what they are expecting from the team. I would like the stadium to be packed, the stadium to be ready to support the team from the first minute, and what we can promise to the fans is that we are going to be trying to pay back all this effort and support with a really good competitive game.
The Lights' second game of this home stretch will be against Pittsburgh Riverhounds this upcoming Saturday at 4 p.m. It is Bring Your Dog to the Match Day, so make sure to bring your pup and come out and support. From Rebel Report, this is Murad Omesh.
On Tuesday, the Vegas Golden Knights lost to the Vancouver Canucks in overtime. In the final minute of the third period, Shea Theodore scored to tie the game and bring the teams to overtime. Less than a minute into overtime, the Canucks scored and beat the Golden Knights 5-4. Both teams are battling for wildcard spots in the Western Conference.
Now on to our AHL team and how they did this past week with reporter Sydney Lum.
The Henderson Silver Knights went against the Stockton Heat this past Wednesday and had a strong start but ultimately ended up losing in overtime with a final score of 4-3. Brendan Brisson made the first goal of the game to put Henderson on the board, but this also counts as his first career goal as this was his professional debut. Although it wasn't an ideal end for the Knights, the game started off strong, especially since the first goal was scored by newcomer Brendan Brisson.
It was a great pass by Corsi, and I was just able to put it back in that. I just wanted to give him like a lane for him to pass, find me, and he was able to do that. And maybe if I was a little bit higher, a little bit lower, he wouldn't have been able to do that. So I feel like just important to get open no matter where it is on that right side, and he was able to find me.
This has been Sydney Lum with Rebel Report.
One of golf's biggest tournaments took over the world last weekend. United States' own Scottie Scheffler won the tournament and claimed the green jacket. Scottie had an impressive final score of -10 below par. Tiger Woods returned to the Masters but finished 47th in the competition. England's own Rory McIlroy finished a close second with a final score of -7 below par.
That'll do it for this episode of Rebel Report. Once again, we would like to thank the Las Vegas Raiders for letting us record this special show at Raiders headquarters.
Thank you for watching.
This is so fun. Like, we just had